Hey guys, it's Drac, and I picked this up in a raffle. This was originally brought to the States by a nerfer in the southeast who goes by Chinanio. He splits his time between China and Georgia, so that's pretty cool, and sometimes he brings some interesting knockoffs back with him. So I'm loading this with Elite Darts, and you can see that it reminds me a great deal of a barricade already, but a barricade with a flippable turret. So there's a button on this side which lets us rotate through, and there's a lot of minor design flaws in this. Like, you might have just noticed that the Elite Darts get caught a little bit on this lip, but it's called the Vulcan Cannon. It has very few locks in it, as evidenced by it revving completely with its jam door open and whatnot, but it's got some fresh batteries in it. The motor hum on it is pretty low, which tells me that it's not reaching a very high RPM, which means that I shouldn't expect much out of the performance. The trigger pull is really weird on it, and it almost doesn't, it's not an almost, there's no almost about it. It does not auto-rotate when you pull the trigger, and it has a great difficulty doing much of anything. So I'm going to assist it through firing these Elite Darts that I've chambered, and hopefully we can get it to perform on camera. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on with some of these knockoffs. So like this, for example, reminds me a great deal of a Long Strike stock, and this reminds me a great deal of a Long Strike handle. Now, the stock and handle are remarkably comfortable. This back portion looks like it would be where the barricade would attach standard Elite stocks, but like, what kind of ridiculous redundancy is this when we have a stock that's built in and removable, but you could also add this stock point attachment. It also is of note that it doesn't have the proper clicks for a actual N-Strike stock, so the stock won't stay on, it will slide on. Now, the blaster doesn't have traditional N-Strike rails. It has a almost faux Picatinny style setup, and man, this is giving me a little bit of trouble. Anyhow, so there's also a strange barrel setup that doesn't quite accept N-Strike barrels, and that makes sense because the N-Strike rail and the N-Strike barrel attachment are still under patent by Hasbro, and the last thing that Lian Gang Toys wants to do, I'm sure, is upset Hasbro, and they're already stealing so much R&D from them. That would be a poor decision to put themselves on the big dog's radar, so to speak. So let's see if we can get it to fire any of these darts. There we go, that wasn't bad. And then rotating through. And then obviously if you wanted, you could, one to go, you could switch your turrets like so, and keep going. So this is an interesting kind of blaster in terms of no wonder this isn't going in, it's super off. It's an interesting blaster in terms of how much can you steal from Hasbro without them getting upset at you, and it looks like the answer to that is a pretty big portion of some of their blasters, because this is essentially a Long Strike barricade with a Shadow Spectre rotating turret setup, and so that's kind of funky, but it's also a really neat blaster. So I don't have time right now to do what I'd like to do with this, which is overhaul the flywheels, put in a LiPo battery setup, and then fix whatever's going on with this rotating mechanism. But if you're an up-and-coming modder and you'd like this blaster for parts or for modification or for really whatever you would desire it for, I have desired to make it available on the United States market, and I'm going to be selling this model on eBay. So I'll put a link to that in the description box below. If you have any interest, you can check it out. I think it's a quirky blaster, and you should be able to pick it up pretty cheap. I'm starting it at 99 cents, like always. Everybody else, thanks for watching. I think it's a fun look at kind of what some of the Asia markets have in their it's just a weird blaster.